7, trade 4 targets and 3 players to trade away. We're going to be talking some big name players today, like Lad McConkey, Malik Neighbors, Tyler Warren, A.J. Brown, George Pickens. Let's get started right off the bat here with Josh Jacobs, someone that I think is a great trade for. We go over to the game log and we see he's faced 3 difficult teams so far and done pretty well. He faced Detroit, who did a great job against Derrick Henry in week 3. He faced the Commanders in week 2 and facing Cleveland, probably the toughest matchup in the league in week 3. And the thing I love about Josh Jacobs in week 3 that he showed us was the receiving work. You can see 5 receptions for 44 yards. In week 1, he had 1 reception. In week 2, he had 0. So if he's going to stay involved in the receiving game, which did work against the Browns, he could have an explosive rest of season, especially when we look at this schedule. Week 15, he faces Denver, not too bad against the run. Week 16, Chicago, amazing matchup. And week 17, Baltimore, another good matchup for Josh Jacobs. So this is a player I would be sending offers for, trying to trade for right now. Another trade for target here is Quidshaw Junkins from the same game. We saw he did a great job against the Packers defense. So if it's not the Browns, the Packers are one of the best in the league right now. In week 1, obviously didn't play. Week 2, he had a limited interaction his first game back with the team. In week 3, he was dominant. 94 yards against the Packers is insane. He had that rushing touchdown. He had a reception as well, and he didn't even play that many of the snaps. So we're going to see that increase each and every week. Now, next week against Detroit may be a little bit more difficult. Remember, Detroit did a great job against Derrick Henry. They were shutting down Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Joe Flacco is no Lamar Jackson, so Judkins may struggle a little bit in week 4, but it's not worse than Green Bay. Then the schedule really opens up because the AFC North is pretty weak against the run aside from the Browns. So we see he faces Minnesota week 5, Pittsburgh, Miami, New England, the Jets, Baltimore. Amazing schedule with the fantasy football playoffs. Chicago, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. This is a great lineup for Quidshaw Junkins, who's going to be continuing to dominate. So I'm trying to buy high. I think he could be a top 10 back for the rest of the season. I really do. So I would trade what you can in order to get him on your team. Our first trade away is going to be A.J. Brown. You saw in this game, they want to do everything but pass the football. They tried to run, they tried to run, they tried to run. They were down in this game. They finally decided to pass at the end. You see 6 receptions, which isn't crazy, to be honest. He had 10 targets, which is amazing. That's what's amazing. But honestly, you look at this team, they are not going to be passing the ball this much most weeks. They simply are not. They didn't week 1, they didn't week 2, and he wasn't good for fantasy football. And you've been waiting. You've been like, I can't sell this guy. He's not startable. Finally, he has the big play. He has the touchdown. Now's your time, because will he score over 20 points again this year? 100%. Is he a great player? 100%. But he's also going to have those weeks where he just disappears. When we look at the fantasy football playoffs, they face the Raiders. Great matchup, but are they going to need to pass in that game? Probably not. They face the Commanders. We'll see how that game goes. That could be a good passing. In Buffalo, that could also be solid as well. So I guess the fantasy football playoff schedule, he faces some good teams, but those may be games where the Eagles need to pass. But overall, throughout the season, I don't know if you make the playoffs with A.J. Brown as your premier wide receiver, because he's just going to have too many games where he lets you down and loses you a week. Back to the trade fours, I am going for Daniel Jones, who did have a down week 3 against the Titans, who are a pretty good defense, but this game was pretty odd. He still had over 220 pass yards, not bad. A passing touchdown, didn't have his vintage rushing touchdown because Jonathan Taylor was absolutely dominant. But the thing you want to watch out for here, you see his pass attempts, it was his lowest of the season, completions lowest of the season, and you really rush attempts lowest of the season. We did see a weird game here with the Colts starting off with a pick 6. They were ahead this entire game right from the jump. So this was a game where Daniel Jones just didn't need to be as Daniel Jones as he was in week 1 and week 2. Facing the Rams in week 4, he's definitely going to be back to that, and I like his schedule as well. Week 15 facing Seattle, they're going to need him in that game. Week 16 facing San Francisco. Week 17 facing Jacksonville. Not the worst playoff schedule at all. And I'm already looking playoffs. This is already something we want to be thinking about, because some players, if they have the worst possible playoff matchup, we may want to trade them away right now in order to maximize their value. But Jones, his playoff schedule is not bad. He's got a decent schedule rest of the season. They're definitely going to need him throughout the year. So I would try to buy low for a player that's been absolutely excellent the majority of the season. He just had a pretty weird game in week 3. And I'm going to trade for his tight end as well, Tyler Warren. He was coming into this game as questionable, and they just didn't need him. Exactly the same reasons. This is going to save time because we just talked all about this game with Daniel Jones. They did not need him in this game. He still scored about 7 fantasy points, but it just wasn't required. We go over to his snaps. His snaps were way down in this game. His snap percentage was way down in this game because they simply didn't need him. He's coming off an injury. Why risk it when you're up by so many points in this game? It wasn't even close. So that's why Tyler Warren, he did have a down week 3, but he's a great player to add for the rest of the season. Our second tradeaway target is going to be George Pickens. Now, very interesting. He had the exact same stat line in week 3 as he did in week 2. 17.8 fantasy points, 5 receptions, 68 yards exactly, 1 touchdown. Absolutely insane. And both of those were on 9 targets. Incredible that he had the exact same stat line. But the thing I hate about this is CeeDee Lamb missed the vast majority of this game, and he wasn't any better. Jake Ferguson became the wide receiver 1 for this team. If you have Jake Ferguson, you lock him in going forward. But George Pickens simply isn't getting the volume. He isn't having the success we need to see for a player when a player is out. Now, I know you may be saying, well, hey, he scored 17.8 points per game, but we want to see more. Jake Ferguson had the 13 targets. That's incredible. That's what we wanted to see from George Pickens. And if he's going to have the same amount of targets in the game where it went 37-37 against the Giants, and then against Chicago, we're going to see what happens this week against Green Bay, but I think he will take a step back. If he doesn't score that touchdown, he's going to lose all of his value. So right now, if you can sell him as a player that's scoring 17 points per game, you lock it in for the season. Getting a guy like Quidshaw Junkins, some of these trade for targets, getting a guy like Josh Jacobs, maybe some of the guys we're about to talk about as well, but I would be looking to trade George Pickens right now to capitalize on this maximized value. An interesting trade for target is Malik Neighbors. Everybody knows this guy. You know he had a bad week 3, a great week 2. This is someone I would try to send a few offers for because right now, the managers of Malik Neighbors probably are 1 and 2. He had a pretty bad week 1 for Malik Neighbors standards. He had a great week 2 where he won you your week, and then he lost you your week in week 3. So they may be a little bit frustrated, willing to make some changes for their team. He does have a pretty brutal schedule coming up. So if you don't trade for him now, you may want to trade for him after week 7, week 8. But there is a really good playoff schedule. I like the game against the Commanders. Now, Minnesota is rough, but then he plays Vegas in the championship. That's going to be a league-winning matchup, literally week 17 in the championship game. So I do like Malik Neighbors again. He may struggle over the next couple games. So if you've got a bad record, I wouldn't risk it. If you're 3-0, trading for Malik Neighbors could be a good move right now. This one's kind of a trade for or trade away. If you are 0-3, I think trading away Rashee Rice for someone that you can play in week 4 is a great idea. If you go down 0-6, you're probably not making playoffs. Now, Rashee Rice could be the best receiver in the league after he comes back. So you have to get an absolute bag for this guy. But right now is probably the right time to trade him if you are 0-3. Now, if you're 3-0, if you're 2-1, even 1-2, you may want to trade for Rashee Rice. Because like I said, I think he's going to be the best, one of the best, top 5 at the very least, receivers in the league for fantasy football when he comes back to health. So if you've got him on your team, I think you can trade him away. If you're struggling, make sure you get a great return. And if you have a good record, try to get him for your team because you can hold off till he gets back. And then your roster is going to be absolutely elite. We've got one more trade for and one more trade away. But if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe. We are going to be making this video every single week in this straightforward, no BS style. By the way, you can grab this WalterPicks app as well in the profile with a free trial with my code, no BS. We're going to talk about trade away Chase Brown. This is pretty rough right now, guys. The Bengals, he had very few fantasy points this week, 6 fantasy points. The yards per carry, absolutely atrocious. There's just not much you can do. And Minnesota's a good defense. They are a good defense, but the schedule, it does get a lot easier. That's the one caveat with Bengals players. After week 6, it opens up. The Steelers' rush defense has been awful. Jets, Chicago, Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore, Miami, Arizona in the championship. The schedule is so good, and that's what's such a shame about losing Joe Burrow. The schedule was elite. So I drafted Chase Brown. He was going to be great this season. He absolutely was. But losing Joe Burrow, absolutely terrible. So right now, I'm trying to trade him away. I want to get Judkins. I want to get some of the other guys on this trade for list. If someone will buy, if someone is looking at the schedule, maybe they're overthinking it, I would try to sell Chase Brown. Our final buy of the video is Ladd McConkey. Now, I'm going to show you a couple stats exactly why he's a buy. Number 1, these fantasy point numbers, they're not what you drafted him for, but you can trade for him at this value. Right now, people are looking to sell for pretty much anything of value at all. So you can get Ladd McConkey for like a 7th round, 8th round pricing right now, comparing it to the draft. So you don't have to pay 2nd round price. So that's the first thing. When we think trading for players, we sometimes think in draft value. That's not a case anymore. We're in season. You may be able to trade a 10, 12 point player in order to get Ladd McConkey. So that's number 1. The receptions has been okay. It's not great. It's not bad. He doesn't have a touchdown. Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen scoring the touchdowns. But look at the snap rate, 93%. The route rate in the high 90s as well. This is what you're looking for to find an elite fantasy producer, is the 90% plus route rate. And it will develop, it will evolve over the year. They can't let Quentin Johnston keep killing them. They can't let Keenan Allen keep killing them. So eventually Ladd McConkey is going to find himself open. It's going to be a rotation there. They're going to have to make some choices. Some teams, they're going to try to shut down QJ. Some teams are going to try to shut down Allen. Some teams have been trying to shut down Ladd, but their strategies will evolve, and Ladd's going to break out. He's eventually going to get there. 9 targets week 1, 7 targets week 3. This is enough volume that he can be a great fantasy football asset. He's also been dealing with a little bit of a bicep injury, so this is a guy I'm trying to add immediately while he's at rock bottom prices.